What mentality did you have when you're like, well, 8 inches shorter, 50 pounds lighter, but I got this matchup now. How do I deal with it?
People were surprised when they found out that I wanted to be an athlete and I wanted to play basketball. And the first thing that I always heard was, "You're too little to play basketball." And when I went out there, we in 3 days of tryouts, and they never put me in practice. So they were sitting over there saying, "This kid too little. We're not gonna get him out there and get him hurt, this and that." So what I did was, about the third day, I went up to the coaches and I said, "Look, put me in the game right now." And they were laughing at me like, "Why, dude?" But what they did do is they supported me through that, even to let me go through it, whether I failed or succeeded.
All right, everybody. Welcome to X Factor. Simon Clemens here with Exact Sports All-State Game. Super excited to have with me today the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Bruce Capers, one of our, great leaders in the Exact and All-State Game universe. This guy has traveled all over the country with us. He's led events in multiple sports. He is a dynamic public speaker. He is a tremendous coach, great mentor, great leader, great community member. And coming to us from Gordon State in Georgia, Bruce Capers, welcome to the program. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Simon. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on the program.
No, I'm doing great, man. It's a pleasure as always to have you on. For the people that don't know you, I actually, was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about, kind of going back your playing career and kind of how, obviously now you're in a totally different position, but that came from a foundation. And so can you share a little bit with us about that background and what, just kind of where you came from and how you made it all happen?
Sure. Simon, I was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia. And I was a little kid, just little, in size, height, weight, just little. And people were surprised when they found out that I wanted to be an athlete and I wanted to play basketball. And the first thing that I always heard was, "You're too little to play basketball." Or I heard 1,000 reasons why I couldn't do it, but I only had one reason why I could, and that was just my belief in myself. So, I just worked hard. I love the role. I learned to live in the role of being the underdog, the least likely to win, the guy who people don't think gonna make it happen. And I learned to relish in that role because long as people are thinking that way, that give me a chance to sneak up on them and beat them up all the time. And by the time I beat them and they realize it is too late at that point. But growing up in Savannah, Georgia, I always just wanted to play sports. That's that. My mother used to get mad at me because we go to church and I'd have a ball in my hand, even with my suit on. I never wanted to put the ball down. So I think being small and worrying about the things that I didn't have, I just focused on the things that I did have and made the best of what I do have. And that is a lot of hard work. I had strong work ethic, determination, and most importantly, a lot of belief in myself. And one journey has I felt like one journey in my life has always prepared me for the next journey in my life. And I still believe that to this day.
So when did that all start? I mean, like because one of the things with All-State Game, especially, we talk a lot about is like, kids putting on that badge that says, at what age, you kind of start to say, I'm a ball player. And that means something, whether it's basketball or you're on the courts in volleyball or you're out in the football field, that sport identity becomes sort of central to somebody's being. And once that happens, I think the cool thing about it is it changes the way they approach lots and lots of choices in their life, and all for the better. And so I'm kind of curious, you bring up being a smaller kid or whatever. Was there an age that you remember just being like, I want to do this, and just being like, it doesn't matter anymore what anybody says about it. I want to do this.
Well, things were happening to me, and I was too young to realize why they were happening. And my earliest remembrance is I remember trying out for the Pee Wee League football team. And when I went out there, we in 3 days of tryouts, and they never put me in practice. So they were sitting over there saying, "This kid too little. We're not gonna get him out there and get him hurt, this and that." So what I did was, about the third day, I went up to the coaches and I said, "Look, put me in the game right now." And it was like, they were laughing at me like, "Why, dude?" In other words, in their mind, they think they're protecting me because I'm little. In my mind, I think they're hurting me because they're not letting me play. So the moral of the story is they finally put me in the game. And the first play, I picked it up and ran it for a touchdown. And I came to the sideline and he said, I heard him tell the other coach, I think we just found our starting running back. But see, I didn't know throughout my career that at every level, I was always going to be seen as the underdog. I was always going to be overlooked. But what I wanted to do is just prove to people that underdogs are big time winners too. And that's what I try to impart on young people in the exact camps. Don't worry about what you don't have. Focus on what you do have. Make that the best it can possibly be, and then work on the other stuff, and things will go your way, just like it went for me.
No, I love that. I mean, I think the the interesting thing there is that you overcame a label, and what I love about the story is that you took agency in your own career. And so, one of the toughest things for a kid to do, I think, is, well, mom, dad, coach doesn't put me in. Coach doesn't let me play. Coach doesn't look at me. And one of the, when we talk about putting on that badge and saying I'm a ball player, part of doing that is, okay, well, you got to make that happen then, because he's not going to just wait for you. He's already shown that he's not going to come down to the end of the bench and put you in. Right. So how are you going to do it? And I think that's a really hard thing for 6th, 7th, you're 11, you're 12, 13. It's asking you to engage with the world in a way that you probably haven't done before. So I'm super impressed by, like that story from you. It is just kind of like at some point in your brain, I mean, my guess is you didn't sit and talk to your mom before that practice about like, how's that going to go? Or what's this going to, like you realized, oh, no, I kind of got to own this. If I want to do it, I got to own it. Because I think that's, the earlier a kid does that, the more opportunities will be there. That's part of leadership. That's part of, being a great teammate. It's part of being being coachable. Part of it is, hey, you're saying, what do I need to do to succeed? And if we ask that every day, we're going to be in great shape. And I'm curious when I say that, what's your response to that mentality? What do I need to do to succeed, coach? Because I'm sure those are kids that you love to work with.
I think if you got the work ethic, you got the willpower, you have the desire, and you have the determination, that's all you need. And I was fortunate that even the people closest to me, Simon, didn't necessarily believe in my dreams and my goals. But what they did do is they supported me through that, even to let me go through it, whether I failed or succeeded. Mm-hmm. So in that process, it helped me find that way. So when I approached those things, and then when I was seen as the little guy who can't play or whatever the situation was, I just used that to fuel my motivation. I always hit the floor or hit the field knowing that I had to prove myself. I never put in my mind that I'm going out there as that guy, or I'm going out there as the guy that everybody wants to see. I trained myself to believe that I'm the guy that nobody comes to see, but I'm the guy that you're going to come back to see once you come see me the first time. So that's how you prove yourself.
So let me ask you this, though. You obviously very successful basketball player, top level. I mean, in the very top of the curve. We'll get into your professional career a little bit later. When you felt like, especially at that younger age in basketball, I mean, that's a sport where, okay, great, Bruce, you can dribble the ball around guys, and you know what I mean? Yeah, maybe on the offensive end, you got a little quickness, a little speed that's disruptive. How'd you deal with the size disadvantage on the other end of the court, where you could be a target, where a larger guy could just be like, I'm coming at you? What mentality did you have when you're like, well, 8 inches shorter, 50 pounds lighter, but I got this matchup now. How do I deal with that? How'd you take that?
I actually turned it into a positive joke. People used to say, oh, but you're too little to play basketball. And I would always respond by saying that somebody got to add beauty and coordination to the game. And they would just get the laugh, you know what I mean? But I just learned to relish in the role of being the underdog. If I got into a situation and I wasn't the underdog, I felt uncomfortable.
Right.
I felt uncomfortable. So now sometimes when you're in various environments and people know you're no longer an underdog, then that's really, really, really tough. So even when I was coaching, I took the job, and some of the other coaches would say, oh, he think this is Globetrotter basketball. Well, they didn't realize that I was a basketball player before I was a Harlem Globetrotter. And so So I love that underdog role, and I learned to relish in it. It never made me mad. It never got me upset. And I remember my dad telling me one time that God bless everybody with certain gifts. You find the gifts that he blessed you with, and you don't waste those gifts, and you use those gifts to the best of your ability. And I think I took that advice and I made it work.
Well, you have to dig to find it, though. That's part of what I'm saying about the self-actualization, right? When I say that, what I mean is, to me, the prime example in basketball is, for example, Steph Curry. Okay,
Mhm.
here you've got a guy who is not the biggest. Clearly, I mean, he's got an NBA dad. He's got a lot of advantages. But what Steph Curry figured out that nobody else really before him had was like Steph Curry can release an accurate jump shot in faster than anybody in the world. And
Anybody.
that advantage, all those inches don't matter anymore because
It don't.
nobody's going to get to his shot. And so, that's something that a kid has to realize, though. Like, okay, well, I don't have the height, or maybe you do have the height, but you don't have the dribbling ability, or what. Like, there's it goes both ways. It's not just like one way or the other. But I was wondering, like, talk a little bit about that. As you're developing and growing, because obviously we're going to get to the Harlem Globetrotters, but how did you just go, okay, well, I don't have this advantage, and obviously in a sport like basketball, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Like, especially if I'm just a neutral coach looking on the court, I'm going, yeah, having a bunch of guys who are 6'5" or higher would be an advantage. I should recruit that way. But then you obviously, as a coach now, I can imagine you are taking that to your recruiting as well, where you're going, okay, I'm looking for these intangibles. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that has to factor in, right?
Yes, for sure. I think the one thing that I was able to do, because along that journey, I recognized the role, but I didn't know I was going to live in that role all my life. So I see it as a way that was just an early introduction of what I was going to be facing along my journey and what it is that I wanted to accomplish. So it was very hard. So I had to learn to deal with myself. What do I have that could separate me from the guy who's bigger, stronger, or whatever? And the one thing that I had was a lot of speed. I can't jump as high as you can, but I can run faster than you can. So I used my strength as a little guy, my low level of gravity. I used that. I used my speed. But I would think that the one thing that I took with me into my coaching career, and even now when I'm dealing with young people, I teach them, yes, we in sports, and sports is very physical. And yes, we have to develop and maintain a level of physical toughness. But Simon, I think the thing that got me over the hump once I realized that underdog role was the role that I was going to be playing, or that overlook, I developed an unbelievable amount of mental toughness. And I think that's what I tried to impart onto my trainees now, my players, and things like that. Hey, you got to be mentally tough. I want to see you get through things and handle things without picking up the phone and calling your mom. I want to see you get into the coach's office and go in and talk to him respectfully about what it is that you need to do to get more than what you're getting. I want to see students, and I'm trying to impart on students to deal with things on their own. There's no such a thing as failing. You're not going to fail. You just learn how things don't work. And in that process, you also learn how things do work. So I think the key to it, one of the biggest things that I offer to young people is it's not just the physical toughness, but it's that mental toughness to block out if you're too short, if you're too slow, if you're not tall enough, or if you're not strong enough. Or in like the example you used, Stephen Curry was a little scrawny guy. But what he did was he realized that he had to get in the gym, he had to get into his diet, and that he needed to do in order to make sure that he can rise to the next level. And that's what he did over the course of the years, is you saw his body develop. But can you imagine the amount of mental toughness that he had to have and to go along with the physical toughness that he had to develop? And now that he has both, he's unstoppable. So I think it's that mental toughness. Is students got to understand that mental toughness is equal to the physical toughness.
When you were getting recruited in high school, how do you think? What was the scouting report? Do you think? What did the coaches that were looking at you? What were they? How did, I guess what I'm saying is, how did it manifest? Like, yeah, I know that's asking you to go back a little bit, but like, what were they ultimately saying? I think this guy actually can compete at the college level.
Well, that's a very interesting question because I think at that time, I was the only one in my mind that thought that I could play college ball. I was the only one in my mind thought that I would even be interested in playing college basketball. So it was just all about me and what I thought that I wanted to do. I wanted to play college basketball. So the scouting report was, he's too little. He's fast, but he's too little. That's what I just kept getting. So I didn't have offers coming out, believe it or not. And uh, I was a little mad with my high school coach because I didn't think he did enough to put me in a position where I could be the best I could be based on where I was. So one of the things when I became a coach, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to become a coach, because I wanted to identify where student athletes were, put them in a position where they can strive and be successful at it. And a lot of that is just positioning people in the right place at the right time and pull out the best that they have in them. So for me, once I looked at the situation and I looked at my scouting reports, as we just said, using Stephen Curry as the example, I knew I had to get bigger and stronger. See, I didn't lift weights, so I had to go in the weight room and get bigger and stronger. I remember a defining moment. I met Herschel Walker when he was in high school running track. And I just spoke with him one day. And he just told me off the top, man, I don't lift a lot of weights, because I didn't lift a lot of weights. But he said, man, but I do over 500, 1,000 push-ups a night. I'm like, wow, okay. So then I went home, and that night I started Herschel Walker push-up regimen. I still didn't go in the weight room a lot, but I got so much stronger. And when I saw those results, it made me even want it even more. And then when all of a sudden I started getting to a point where people were taller than me, but they weren't stronger than me. They weren't mentally tough as I was. And then on top of that, they wasn't as fast as I was. So you have to build your way. I call it building your advantages when you don't have them. See, somebody can walk out there 6'8", 240, they clearly have an advantage. But someone like myself, you have to build your advantage. Stephen Curry had to build his advantage. And that just comes with a lot of work ethic, a lot of mental toughness, and a lot of people surrounding yourself. I tell people all the time, you got to look at your bench. You got to surround yourself with like-minded winners, people who don't just tolerate your success, but they demand your success. And when you have those kind of people in your corner, that village pushing you like that, you really feel bulletproof and you feel like the sky's the limit. And it gives you the confidence you need to go out and do whatever it is that you need to do to be whatever it is that you're trying to be.
You just gave the best definition of what we're looking for in an all-star game athlete I've ever heard. That's exactly the kid, right? And it's surrounding yourself with winners and surrounding yourself with people that are willing to put in the work. What I love about the Herschel Walker story, I love the way you said that, because to me, what it says is, oh, he gave you a bar and it was way higher. And you were just like, oh, I never considered that could be a way to approach this. And now you have somebody who's like, well, that's what I do. And it's like, oh, well, then I could just do it. Okay, let me go do that then. Because I do think that a lot of time kids are held, maybe it's the school culture, maybe it's, whatever. Especially now, it's a really hard thing to understand. But I had a coach on X Factor a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about high school culture, and he was talking about, a coach, we can do a lot, and there's a lot of expectations and setting in, trying to set standards across the team and making people understand what the expectations of the team are. But he said the most successful teams I have, it's actually the leaders at the next level it's the kids that embrace all those things plus. And they're the guys that show their teammates that there's another level in the weight room. They're the guys who, through their examples, show what good choices are. Just that, you don't even have to say it. It's like, what am I doing tonight? Oh, I've got this diet routine. I've got this sleep routine, and it just becomes like, if I'm hanging out with that guy, I'm going, oh, what's he doing? Same as you just said about Herschel Walker. What's he doing? Well, he's doing these things. I see he's really good, and I'd love to get there. He just gave me a map.
Man, I saw last week Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the MVP in the NBA right now. And you know how the Oklahoma City Thunder, when they do their post-game interviews, how they all stand behind one and support each other, which I love that. But it was so funny. I'm paraphrasing, but the reporter asked him, how he do certain things and go about certain things. And his teammates just started laughing because he said he do everything consistently the same way every day. And I said to myself, he's not supposed to be the MVP of the NBA. But now it's clearly why he is the MVP of the NBA. He work out the same time. He eats the same time. He does his family the same time. He does his spiritual stuff the same time. He works out everything. Even his teammates in the back start naming him like this. They start doing their fingers like this, naming, because they know his regimen. They know he's not going to break that for nobody or nothing. So what he does is he compartmentalize everything in his life to fit in his life to do what he wants to do most of his life. And we always hear the saying that the thing that we spend the most of our time doing, that's what we become. So you see, he's the MVP because he takes most of his time, he spends most of his time becoming the MVP.
Oh, I love that. It actually made me think of another story of another MVP. So, Christian Braun with the Denver Nuggets,
Yes.
he was talking about what it's like to play next to Jokic. And, one of the stories he had, it was about the pre-practice stretch. And one day Jokic just called him over and said, "You stretch next to me now." And Braun realized as he was going through this seemingly mundane routine, because, how many of us, like, we punt on stretching? Like, that is a classic athlete. Like, I'll do anything except sit and focus on stretching for the requisite 15 minutes before I get into athletic competition. And Braun was like, Jokic showed me in just a short period of time that no minute of our practice together is taken for granted. That the practice starts with this stretch, and it is almost a meditative, deep understanding, listening to your body, because your health is ultimately everything. And it sets a tone for everything, for the whole thing. And I agree with you, because I think when you tell the Shea story, I think it's a similar thing where it's just like these routines, they may be mundane, they may be boring for normal people, and yet at the same time, that commitment daily to every single part, a thoughtful practice in every single moment, is where the success comes from, because it all builds over time.
Over my 21 years of coaching, I think the last number we looked at, it's like over 160 some athletes that went on to play at the next level. And I can honestly tell you what you just said. When I sign an athlete and he comes on campus and he spends times at the junior college level, 2 years with me, from day one, I can almost tell you who's going to go Division I, who's going to go Division II, who's going to go Division III, who's going to probably be through. And it's all tied to what we're talking about right now. They walk different. Division I walk different than Division II or JUCO. Division I kids, they work out different. They come early, they stay late. They spend extra time in the weight room. I had some kids, a crew one year, I think I had one year of like 6 guys signed Division I. And all of them would be in the gym. If I arrive at 6:30 to my office or 7 to my office, they were already in there. I got reports of security calling me, guys breaking in the gym because they couldn't get in just to work out. See, it's that kind of thing like that, the guys that do the extra, the above and beyond. And I heard somebody say, I'm this good because I'm willing to do what most people are not willing to do. And I think that's the separator. That's the separator from signing Division I, Division II, or NAIA or Division III. It's the work ethic. Division I look a certain way, and I'm not talking about height and weight, but their workout, the way they move, it looks a certain way. D2 looks a certain way. JUCO looks a certain way. But you can always tell the guy who's moving or the girl who's moving to the next level, they got that it factor when it comes to development of where they're trying to go.
Yeah, no, you've heard it said probably, but success is boring.
You got it.
And I kind of like it because that's so simple. But if I was to tell our all-state game kids anything, it's like, if you start these habits when you're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you have a great opportunity to find success long term. The earlier you lock those things in, the more likely it is that mundane routine, it just gets wired into your brain and you go to work and you do the work and you find the over time that success is going to build.
Well, you don't want to pick up the bad habits because you don't want your jump shot looking like Charles Barkley's golf swing.
Let me ask you this, Bruce. So you just brought up you weren't recruited to play college basketball. So what's the transition for you, 17, 18 years old? Did you walk onto a team for college? How did that journey, ultimately, take you through from that age, to obviously the many, many years and hours you spent on the court?
So the couple of people who were interested in me changed their mind. I did have a couple of, but they changed their mind. They have a right to do that. They changed their mind. So it was what I wanted to do. So my father made a pact with me. My father told me, said, I'll do anything I can for my children to help them get to the places where they want to be. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. My father said, we're going to take you around and visit and work out and try out for some folks. And in that process, if somebody picks you to play on their team, I'm going to do everything within my power to make sure you get that opportunity. So when I went and tried out for the junior college that I ended up going to, the coach told me off the bat, he had a point guard coming back, averaging about 30 points a game. He was an All-American. He was this and he was that. He wasn't sure if I could give me playing time. And the one thing that several schools told me was they didn't have any money left. That was the common thread, no money left. So I thought I was good enough to get a scholarship, and I did not want my hardworking parents to have to spend money for me to go to college. I saw them do that with my sisters. So I wanted to reward them by getting a full scholarship. Well, it didn't happen. But I did get offered an opportunity to play for this junior college. So I came back and talked to my dad. And my dad, I can remember it like the day. You said it was a long time ago, but I remember it like yesterday. I remember that it was going to cost me $769 per quarter, because at that time we didn't do semesters, we did quarters. I never forget it. It was $769. And the coach said that I will try to help you with your books. Well, this is what happened with that. My dad said, take it. So I took it. But he said, go there and you give it all you got, son. And that's what I did. And the moral of that story, and the reason why I told it, Simon, because when we went home for Christmas, after the first semester, I came back on a full scholarship. Now, I don't know where he got the money from that he said he didn't have, but I know I did something right to make him feel good enough to give that money to me. And once that happened, it was on and popping after that.
Okay, so you basically then you walk onto the junior college team.
Yes.
And you get seen. I assume fall practice.
It wasn't a walk-on. I got an offer, but it just was no money.
Just no money offered. But so you apply to the junior college. You're paying that first quarter, tuition, etc. You're putting things together. Now you're full ride. That happens, I guess, in the middle of the basketball season then.
Right after Christmas break, when I came back from Christmas, he told me, he said, you don't have to tell your dad. He doesn't have to worry about it no more. I got you.
Okay. All right. So then what do the next year and a half look like at the junior college as you play through 2 seasons there? And then what happens after that?
So I was fortunate because I was going to a junior college playing behind a freshman All-American that averaged 30 points a game. But it was he got injured at the beginning of the year, and something happened where he couldn't play in like the first 3 games or so. Mm-hmm. So I wound up the only freshman on the floor starting. We won all 3 of those games. One of them I knew we were going to win because we were playing against a team that signed one of my homeboys over me, and I knew I was better than him. So I wanted to punish them. So I really punished them that night. So as that continued to develop, I started the first 3 games. Then when he came back, he got the starting role back, but I still played a lot. And we both played together down the stretch because we both could shoot free throws and handle the ball real well. So that worked out. And then when we actually won the championship, went to the national tournament, and then coming back as a sophomore, I was the only one returning for the most part because I was the youngest guy. And I still took them back to the Final Four before transferring. And then After that, then you could tell that I kind of like earned my way at that point because I probably had about 10, 11, 12 offers from Division II, a couple of Division I schools, uh, some NAIA schools and things like that.
I think that's something that a lot of kids, that's a challenge, is just, you've proven it, right? You've taken the team to the tournament, you've scored your points, there's a level of play and understanding. Okay, doesn't matter how big you are, if you're putting up those numbers anywhere, you're a baller. So where'd you end up going to the 4-year school then? What was that?
Man, I went to the beautiful Berry College. Probably heard a lot about it. 28,000 acres of land, just a beautiful school, very diverse environment.
This is in North Georgia?
Yes, North Georgia and Rome, Georgia.
Rome, Georgia. Yeah. Okay.
It's a Division III now. It's a Division III school now. So I went to Berry College, and the reason why I went to Berry College is that the coach there, he recruited me. I tell you, I had several offers, and I'm gonna tell you what was the ultimate decision for me. I was gonna be a senior athletically, but a junior academically. And it was the one scholarship offer that I had that was willing to pay for my school after my senior year because I had 1 year left. He knew I wanted to be a coach one day. And he dangled a carrot in there by offering me the extra year, and he dangled the carrot to let me coach the JV team.
Yeah, awesome. So that's how you got introduced to coaching.
Yes, because I wanted to coach before that. I just didn't know how I was going to get into it. But that was my first coaching opportunity. But I got hurt, wound up redshirting, and I didn't coach because I wound up playing that next year. But I tell you what I did do. I kept the stats, and I did all the film stuff for the team. And I learned so much that year sitting out that it gave me a chance to get my body right, my mind right. And I'll tell you, Simon, when I got back in there that next year after my injury, because I broke my 5th metatarsal twice. And when I got back in there, I really felt like I was a man among boys.
Okay. So then you get done playing at
So
Berry.
then I get done playing at Berry, and I had an opportunity to try out for a team that was looking for players to play internationally. I didn't get drafted. I did try out for the CBA. And the thing that happened with that, Simon, I twisted my ankle 2 days before playing for Mike Bibby, who was the coach of the team at that time. So I didn't get that opportunity. So I did make a team going. I went to Nashville and tried out for international. They were looking for players to go play international, and I made that team. The only guy probably under 6'7" that made it. Then I had a chance to go play over in Saudi Arabia, had a chance to play a little bit in Europe. And then when I got back, I was just fortunate because the guy that replaced Curly Neal was from my hometown named Larry Gator Rivers. And he was the one that started the Globetrotter thing rolling. So actually, they're doing a documentary now. I'm one of 4 guys from the same hometown, went to the same high school, played for the same professional team. So it's been 4 of us throughout history, and I was the 4th one. So I got that opportunity. And the biggest thing I would like to say is it was always earning my way to get this opportunity, doing well in that opportunity, taking advantage of it. And that propelled me to the next one, then to the next one, then to the next one, and then to the next one. And then when my playing days were over, management saw something in me, guess what again? And offered me the position as the regional marketing director, where I basically learned to control pretty much all the marketing for the Midwest and the Southeast region. Well, after a long run at that, I knew I wanted to coach. That's what I wanted to do. You would not believe I was a finalist for 12 jobs over 2 years and didn't get not one of them. And I went to Paul Hewitt's when he was at Georgia Tech. I went to his coaching basketball camp clinic 1 year. And I kind of told him what my situation was. I couldn't get hired and stuff like this. And he gave me the greatest advice. He said, Bruce, before you give up on it, go back and look at all the coaches, and you can do this with players too. Go back with all the coaches who got the job over you. What did they have that you didn't? So I actually did that, and I was blown away. there was one consistent theme. None of them had my playing career. None of them, I thought none of them could coach like I could coach and things like that. But there was one consistent theme. They all had master's degrees. So I had to make a decision from that Paul Hewitt's advice that if I really wanted to coach like I said I did, then I had to go get a master's degree. And then I went back to my junior college coach that I won a championship with, who was getting ready to retire. And he said, if you come and help me coach my last 2 years, I'll just have the first seat and name. You're going to do everything. And if you do that for me, I'll pay for your master's. So
And
he
that was
paid for me.
it. Wow.
When I got that master's, I was a finalist for 12 jobs over 2 years. And the day I got my master's, I immediately went to turning down jobs.
Amazing. Okay. And what school is that?
That I got the job at first.
Yeah.
My first coaching job was at Aiken Technical College in Aiken, South Carolina. Won the first championship and took the team to the national tournament, the first state school to go to the national tournament.
And Aiken, that's a D2 school, right? Is that right?
USC Aiken down the street is the D2. Aiken Tech is the JUCO.
Oh, okay. Right on. Amazing. So,
yeah.
Wow. And then all this. So you played how long with the Globetrotters?
I was with the organization from 89 to 1997.
Okay, so yeah, all right, 8 years with the Globetrotters, and then you transitioned, got your master's degree, and moved into the coaching world.
You moved into the coaching. That's ultimately what I wanted to do. So I
used
one to help me get the other.
And here you are today.
Here I am today.
So yeah, I mean, I guess the final thing I just ask is, what's your advice to young players who aspire to to take it to the next level? Like, what's one thing that you think you would just say, as long as if you do this, you're going to set yourself up for success?
Simon, this is one of the reasons why I love working with the Exact Sports, because I think our camps and all state games and stuff like that we do, I think it is very humbling to the student athlete and to the parents. It's humbling to the student athlete because when you get in there, number one, you're being led by college coaches. That's a whole new ball game right there. Number two, when you get in there, you're probably going to see for the first time you that guy where you live, but when you branch out, you're going to find out that you're not the best thing in town. So it's going to humble you and let you know that you got a long ways to go, because these kids from this place and that place and that place, they are much, much better than I am. I think it's a humbling thing and a great thing for the parents too, because the parents and the student athlete leaving an Exact camp, they clearly understand whether or not this is for me or not. Because I think Exact camps do put a perspective on a student athlete and his parent to say, okay, are we 100% serious about this or all in? Are we just doing this because we want to use it as a social avenue? Are we doing this because we want to use this to help us pay for college? Are we doing this because this is a way of life? And see, that determines whether or not, it's like when I go in and I'm signing a kid. And one of the things that I ask them, I say, okay, so what level you want to go to when you leave junior college? They're all going to say the same thing. I want to go to Division I. And I love it because their parents are sitting right there. And then I go into this whole spiel about, okay, you said that your goal is to go Division I. So if you come to me, I'm going to have to coach you and treat you like a Division I player, which means that you're going to have to work and act and do the things that Division I players do. So know where you are. The Exact camps, it helps us find out where it's a true indication of where we are and where we're going in this game. It helps the parents, whether or not, lets them know whether they got to go work harder because they got to spend some more money, or whether or not I can even let the parent know, hey, I don't need to be spending money on this because this is just not what little Johnny wants to do. So I think it's just a great situation, and the advice that I give the young people, especially nowadays, I think it was a lot easier for me, Simon, I will admit to this, because I really didn't have a lot of distractions that our young people have today. To be honest with you, the only distraction I had growing up is I just like girls. I like girls. But other than that, I was so focused and committed to what I was doing, I wasn't even going to let that distract me. But the young people that we work with today, man, they have so many distractions, and maintaining that high level of focus to be extremely good at this thing called basketball. I think exact sports activations is the best way to go find out how serious your kids are. And it's another opportunity for you to find out where you are, because you might be the best in your hometown, but you can come to an exact sports camp and you'd be the worst. So my advice is, especially those who want to come and participate with us in our exact activations, really come find out where you are and where you need to go as it relates to the sport.
All right, Bruce, pleasure having you on the show. Really loved the conversation. Loved getting the details on the story, man. I mean, it's such a great story. And honestly, I'd never gone through it chronologically quite like that, which was really, even for me, just an absolute joy. So I can't thank you enough for all your time, your service, your energy, your commitment to the youth athletes in this country. You're somebody I respect tremendously, and just always excited to have you on board and working with us, man. Thanks so much.